Hello, everyone. This is Don Norwood. Welcome to today's webinar, which is the first one from my home. We're talking about tackling the writing process. Hopefully, the technological limitations that I have here at home won't be too bad, and you can hear me okay, and there won't be too many disruptions or distractions going on. But if you do experience a problem, please let me know in the chat box. Um, like I said, I'm Don Norwood. I've been a scientific editor at MD Anderson since 1996. I also have quite a bit of writing experience going back to as far back as high school. I graduated from Texas A&M University in 1993 with a Bachelor of Science degree in journalism. So I spent most of my college career writing for newspapers and also did for 2 years in high school. So I have a good bit of experience when preparing to write and writing, especially with feature articles, which were the closest I came to the type of writing that you all do. It involved a lot of thought as to what I was going to say, how I was going to say it, and so I learned a few lessons there that I hope will be able to pass on to you today. Uh, Specifically, we're going to talk about how to get started on writing projects and also how to keep from getting stuck once you begin writing. I'll mostly focus on scientific articles and to a lesser extent, grant proposals. But much of the advice that I'll provide is also relevant for other kinds of formal writing projects. Hopefully, is anyone else experiencing any sound problems? Hmm. It seems like there may be some problems with, with more than just my equipment here. So, okay. Well, thank you for letting me know. I'll push on the best that I can, and hopefully um, it will come through okay. And I'll remind you at the end of the webinar, we're going to make this available online. We're going to post a recording on our website, and also we're going to post all the slides there. So all this material will be available to you after we get through with the webinar. Um, so you've probably discovered that one of the toughest things to do when you're writing an article or a grant proposal is just getting started. The only thing tougher might be staying on task once you have started. We're surrounded by distractions, and the number of them seems to be growing every day, including audio problems. We have smartphones, our coworkers, our family and friends, and other work responsibilities, and also some environmental factors like noise and uncomfortable temperatures. All these can make writing seem impossible sometimes. Also, unlike writing a letter or an email, you have to complete several steps in preparation for writing a manuscript or a grant application that go just beyond sitting down and tapping a keyboard. Maybe worst of all is the pressure that you feel to get published or funded. This can all make writing a daunting task. There is hope, however. Today we'll talk about some strategies to make tackling the writing process easier. I'll also talk about how to keep from getting stuck while you're in the middle of a writing project. So like I said, feel free to type any questions that you have in the chat box related to the material that we're going to cover today, and I'll try to answer them as we go along. And we'll also have some time at the end to answer any questions that you have then. And like I said, we're going to have a recording of the webinar on our department's website. You can rewatch it later if there's anything that you missed. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it then. And we're also going, like I said, we'll have PDFs of the slides there as well. So here's what we're going to cover today. First, we're going to focus on how to plan the writing process. Then we're going to talk about using order and comfort to your advantage when you're writing. And next, we'll go over some strategies to avoid and overcome writer's block. Planning is one of the most important things you can do to make writing your manuscript or grant proposal less difficult. In fact, planning and revising your document should take up more time than actually writing it. Planning includes discussing aspects of the project with your co-authors or co-investigators if you have any, determining the authorship for an article, determining the responsibilities of the authors, and gathering and organizing your materials. Also, this is the time that you want to select a target journal or the funding agency to submit your proposal to. Breaking it down further, you can decide on the article or the grant type. Moreover, having a plan will save time and prevent a lot of frustration as you navigate your writing project. It will also help you meet all the deadlines that you're facing. One particular planning step that may be helpful is to create a list of the decisions you'll have to make and when you'll have to make them throughout the project. This list will help you organize your thoughts, and keeping it handy while you write will help you stay focused and not leave anything out. Always talk to your co-authors as you plan the manuscript. One of the first things you must do are to identify the authors and the order of the authors, and decide on the writing roles for all of them. Individuals must meet 4 criteria to qualify as an author. First, they must generate at least a part of the intellectual content of a paper, either in conceiving or designing the study or in collecting or analyzing reported data. Second, they must take part in writing the paper, reviewing it, or revising its intellectual content. Third, they must approve the final version of the manuscript to be published. And fourth, they must be able to publicly defend their parts of the intellectual content of the document in the scientific community and commit to resolving any issues and other parts that arise. Selecting the target journal in collaboration with your co-authors will help you pick the right journal for your article, focusing on its impact factor and specificity. Sure, you always want to be published in Nature or JAMA, but there's an incredible amount of competition for publication in those journals, and your article might be better suited for a journal with a tighter focus. Likewise, your co-authors can help you decide on your article's key message and choose the right target journal. Knowing the journal's guidelines on structure and length up front will be helpful parameters to have in mind as you write. If you're a trainee, you'll need to meet with your PI to ensure that you agree on the most important aspects of your project before you start writing it. PIs have plenty of writing experience, and they know how to navigate the publishing and navigating processes, so they're excellent sources of writing advice. You can ask your PI some questions to help clarify how to start and proceed with your writing project. For example, are my hypothesis statement and conclusion accurate? Also, the target audience seems to be audience A. Shall I write the article with this group in mind? Also, I think our research is best suited for publication in journals A, B, or C, as a research article or a review or letter or another type of article. Do you have a particular target journal in mind for the manuscript? Another question you want to ask is, what will the writing responsibilities of each author be? Next, you can present your experiments or your results that you want to include in the article. The next question will be, do you think the article should include this much material? Or do I have enough for more than one article? Another question to ask is, when is the first draft due? Can I show you each section as I finish? You may not write them in order, so that will be a legitimate thing to ask. You may also ask if the PI wants to meet regularly and discuss your progress, or just let you know when you need to talk about something. Likewise, if you're a PI overseeing trainees, your writing experience is invaluable to them. Trainees are often reluctant to meet with their PIs, so you may have to be proactive in setting up meetings with your trainees to discuss their writing projects. All the answers to these questions will make your writing project focused, and will help you complete it as quickly as possible. Another important step to take before you begin writing is gathering the material that you already have and that will feature in your article. For example, if you're writing a research article, important material to gather would include lab notes, reference literature, your hypothesis, or your purpose statement. your conclusion, and tables and figures. And in these cases, drafts or sketches would be okay if you don't have the final versions. Also, you need to collect the names and materials used and their suppliers, the author or the applicant instructions, the list of your co-authors along with their email addresses and their phone and fax numbers, acknowledgments, any relevant poster and slide presentations, and your outline. Following a writing schedule will keep you focused and productive throughout the project. You should carefully plan the time you'll need for writing so that you can easily meet all of your deadlines. A good approach is to estimate the amount of time you'll need to get through all the steps in the writing process, and then multiply that time by 2 or 3 to set a realistic goal. These steps are quite varied. They range from gathering your materials, picking the target journal, to writing sections of the manuscript and creating tables and figures, to revising the entire document. As an example, if you decide that a certain step will take 2 hours, plan for it to take 4 or 6 hours. This will help you budget your time to allow for getting through any problems while writing and managing work with your co-authors. Also, it will provide you with enough time in your schedule to put a draft or section of your project away for a day or two before looking at it again. This will give you a fresh perspective on your project and help prevent mental fatigue while you're writing, which almost certainly will happen if you try to write a project in one sitting. An alternative approach is to specify a date at which you will submit your article or proposal and then work backward in developing your schedule. For instance, work back by setting your manuscript completion date 6 or 7 weeks before the submission date. This will allow time for review by your co-authors, making changes based on their suggestions, review of the document by an editor, responding to the editor's suggestions, final review by the co-authors, and sending the document to the journal. Grant proposals don't require some of these steps, but they do require some steps not needed in writing manuscripts. So you should use the same 6 to 7 week time frame before the institution's internal deadline. No matter which type of schedule you use, don't try to write the project from beginning to end at one time. Write it in portions. So we've talked about preparing to write. Now we're going to talk about actually sitting down and doing the work. I admit preparing to write was always my weak point. I didn't put a lot of thought into it ahead of time. I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants. However, when I did finally have in my mind set what I wanted to write, actually doing the writing was the easy part. So hopefully what we'll go over for the next few minutes will help you to help make that easier for you as well. You can take a few steps to make your writing process as easy as possible. First, find an environment that's comfortable for you. Second, develop and use a routine or a ritual to keep your writing on track. Third, create and use an outline to guide your project. You may not have the luxury of choosing an optimal environment for writing. You'll often have to write when you can in your lab or in a shared workspace. And I can also tell you that writing in a newsroom is probably as difficult as writing in a lab or a shared office. But if you can, you should find a spot that you know will be conducive to your writing habits. You should also have access to all the research and reference materials needed for your project. An important thing to remember is that no matter what kind of environment you use, you should take breaks regularly. Get up, walk around, stretch your legs, and clear all the clutter from your mind. Using a routine or a ritual when you sit down to write can be very effective in making the process easier. It's especially true if you're a creature of habit, like myself. It will help you establish consistency and make the most of your valuable time. Here are a few steps to take in creating a writing outline, a writing routine. Carve dedicated time out of your schedule to write. For instance, if you're a morning person, again, like myself, plan to write as soon as you wake up. Likewise, if you're a night owl, do so after you've put aside everything else for the day. Allowing time to write might also be as simple as setting aside 15 minutes a day for it. Create a ritual when writing to ensure consistency. In this context, rituals are a series of actions or behaviors that you can follow regularly. They can include writing a topic sentence for each paragraph before writing the paragraphs themselves, and writing a method and then the results of that method. Have a specific goal in mind every time you write. This can be as simple as writing a page in a day or a paragraph or two during your lunch break. When you wrap up a writing session, write yourself some notes to serve as reminders for where to start writing next time, or for performing other things that you have to do. Remember, these are just examples. There are no hard or fast rules in creating a routine for your writing. If you're patient, a little trial and error can lead to the development of a routine that can make writing easier than you've ever thought possible. For the vast majority of writers, using an outline is extraordinarily helpful. Making an outline can help you organize your thoughts, start on your project, and interact with your co-authors. Simply writing down the main parts of your writing project in a logical order will give you a good outline. Look at it as creating a roadmap you'll use to navigate your manuscript or grant proposal. Here are a few tips for creating an outline. First, put as many main elements as you can down on paper as you can. These can include things like your hypothesis or purpose statement, specific aims, and materials. Then put these parts of the project in the order in which they should appear in the final product. Write a few short phrases that will be key to describing your research and place them in the appropriate sections of the project. Write some notes to yourself about your content or anything else that comes to mind that you think will be helpful in the writing process. These may include some simple reminders to not leave out some information or steps in the writing process. Finally, don't be too concerned about the format of the outline. It won't be published, it's just intended to be a writing aid. Here's an example of an outline for a manuscript that may be helpful. You can see that we start out with the introduction section, describing the fact about the topic that you're studying, some background facts along with the reference citations for them, then your hypothesis statement. Follow that with a method section. Write down a few sources and materials, some of the lab or clinical procedures that you performed. You can single out a particularly important method that you used and that had some important results, and also your statistical analysis. In the results, you can list some figures or tables that you're going to use, as well as writing down some of the best findings that you obtained. In the discussion section, write down your conclusion, how your findings differed from those described previously, some of the possible clinical implications of your findings, the limitations of your study, and as always, try to minimize that as much as possible, and the future directions of research in your field. You can see that this outline example is pretty simple and straightforward. You only need enough detail for each point to know what they'll mean for the final manuscript. Also, and this outline mirrors what the final paper will look like as far as the sections of each of the MRAD sections. Another approach to creating an outline is to first write the title or topic at the top of the page. Second, write down all of your ideas. Third, keep writing until you run out of ideas. Fourth, read the ideas that you wrote down. And fifth, analyze your ideas and write down a few notes to flesh those ideas out. One tactic you can use is to create a mind map like the one shown here. A mind map is a diagram of thoughts and ideas. Organizing your thoughts in a mind map can be especially helpful if you're a visual learner. This can be done by simply drawing it by hand on a sheet of paper. Keeping it handy while you're writing may help you stay focused and organized throughout the process. Now, once you settle in your optimal environment, created your outline, and established your routine, you can do a few things to streamline the writing process. This will make it easier and also faster. When you're writing your first draft, that's a great time to start to streamline the process. First of all, just write. Don't worry about typos, misspellings, or other mistakes. The important thing is to just get your ideas down on paper. Also, flesh out the sections of your outline one at a time. You don't have to wait until all of your research is done or all of your materials are collected to start writing. Some parts of a manuscript or a grant proposal don't have to wait for that. Another thing you can do is begin with a section of the project that's easiest for you to write. For manuscripts, the introduction is the most logical starting point, but many authors find that the methods section is the easiest one. For grants, the specific aims section is the most obvious initial part to write, but another good one is the preliminary data section. The important thing is just to get something down on paper and avoid getting stuck once you get started. Revising a manuscript or a grant proposal is often the largest part of the project. When you've finished your first draft, you can streamline the writing process and revising it in subsequent drafts. First, ask your co-authors for any revisions and/or feedback. When you start editing, just focus on the content. You're the expert on the subject, and no one will know better than you whether the content is accurate and complete. Afterward, you can check for typos, misspelled words, grammar problems, run-on sentences, and awkward or unclear writing. Check for any steps, facts, or details that you failed to describe, as well as any that should be removed. Check your word count to see if it's close to the journal's or the agency's limit. Make sure that the sections of the project are in the correct order. In manuscripts in the MRAD format, which, as most of you know, means introduction, methods, results, and discussion, something to keep in mind is that the order of information in the abstract should match that in the main text. Also, the order of the results should match the order of the methods. Finally, reevaluate your title to make sure that it best summarizes the information in the abstract. Once you finalize the content of your manuscript, it's time to make the final revisions of it. Start by waiting. Don't immediately edit your document after you finish writing it. Wait at least a couple of hours. If possible, wait and edit a day or two later. One thing that we as editors often do that could prove helpful to you is to read your document out loud. It can reveal some problems that you missed because you're using more senses. Send your document to your co-authors or your co-investigators so they can review and approve it. When you're revising all of your drafts, take the reader's view of your project. When going through a draft, ask yourself some questions that a reader of your target journal or a grant reviewer might ask. Don't restart your drafts. In other words, don't second guess yourself. Write a draft to completion and then fix the problems that you see in the next draft. All writers, even experienced ones, get stuck while writing sooner or later. So if you find yourself unable to get past the sticking point in your writing, don't stress out about it. You're part of a very large club. Also, don't think that you just have to power through getting stuck. Often, the harder you think and work in trying to get unstuck while writing, the worse it gets. Fortunately, you can take several steps to overcome such obstacles. First, let's look at some reasons that writers get stuck. Too much time between writing sessions. If you go too long between sessions, rust can set in. Overthinking your writing project. Don't fall victim to paralysis by analysis. Your writing project shouldn't be the only thing in your life. Don't obsess about it. Give yourself some time to work on other things and just relax mentally. Trying to be perfect. Don't do this when you're writing. Perfection in small things, such as spelling, punctuation, and style, isn't the goal. Instead, you should aim for accuracy and clarity. A good quote to keep in mind is that writing is thinking, not thinking about writing. Another one is that perfection is the enemy of done. Running out of things to write about. To help prevent writer's block, you should always write ideas down as they come to mind. And then keep those written ideas handy at all times. There are tons of smartphone apps out there that can help you with this, or you can just carry a notebook. Now let's go over some tips on how to keep from getting stuck when you're writing, as well as how to get unstuck. First, set frequent, separate deadlines for different parts of the project. For example, set deadlines for finishing figures, tables, the method section, the specific aim section, etc. Budget your time in a way that will allow you to get in the right frame of mind to start writing. If you think you need 30 minutes for a specific writing task, add 10 or 15 minutes for mental preparation. Read for inspiration. Reading can spur ideas for your writing. You don't have to read something similar to what you're working on. It doesn't even have to be a biomedical or academic publication. Read whatever you think can inspire you. To avoid writer's block while you're writing, write parts of the project early. Start writing the parts of the manuscript or the grant proposal that you can when you can. Don't put it off. Also, just start writing. Don't wait until you have all of what you want to write set in your mind. The act of writing itself can spark creativity and build momentum. Furthermore, use templates. Identify parts of your writing that went well and then adapt them for use as templates for other parts of your projects. To avoid writer's block, dictate what you want to write. You can use a voice memo app on your smartphone or some other personal recording device to state some things you want to include in your writing project. Also, vary your writing times and your locations. Now, this may be mandatory for some of you who don't have dedicated office space. And it also contradicts what I said about creating a routine or a ritual. That said, changing up when and where you write can help you avoid getting in a rut when you're writing. Never a day without a line. That quote translates into not going a day without writing something, anything. Treat writing as a muscle. You should exercise it as often as possible. To overcome writer's block, change your writing tools. A good diversion is to write out your thoughts in longhand. There's at least one best-selling author, a man named Nelson DeMille, who writes all of his manuscripts in longhand. He has a team of people who transcribe them. That's a little bit extreme, but writing some things out this way can help you avoid or break out of writing slumps. Furthermore, if you get stuck, talk with a trusted colleague about the point that you're stuck on. To overcome writer's block, free write. Write whatever enters your head when it enters your head. You can also write a letter to a real or an imagined recipient. Act as if you're corresponding with someone, describing what you did and what you found. Finally, write the ending or conclusion first. Start with what you found and its implications, and then work backward. If you get stuck on writing one section, move to writing a different section. When you complete your writing project, review the process that you used to write it. Look back and determine what did and did not work for you, and apply that knowledge to your next writing project. Finally, Scientific Publications has some resources that can help you start and complete your writing projects. You can send your documents to us for professional editing. We all have many years of experience in biomedical editing. We're convenient and we're free. And we can provide assistance all along the writing process, not just at the end or after you finish a certain one of your drafts. Also, you can find some resources for some of the topics I covered in our website. Like I said, as we're recording this webinar, you'll find some previous webinars from our department on a wide range of topics related to writing manuscripts and grant proposals. Furthermore, you can find some manuscript and grant writing tips in our newsletter called The Right Stuff. Finally, we offer several educational resources for writers, including our workshop called Writing and Publishing Scientific Articles, which we will soon be offering online. If you have any other questions or need further assistance, you can reach us by phone or email, and you can see those in the number and the links there. Again, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box, and we'll try my best to answer them. Tackling multiple writing projects. That's where I would first thing I would do would be to determine which one is most important. Usually, that's which one has the most immediate deadline. Um, if you're a new writer, you know people who have been published, and I would ask them first how they manage it. Uh, that's usually a advice that I give anyone who has a question like this. If you know experienced writers, get their advice. Uh, but most of the time, when you have more than one going at one time, you'll be able to tell which one takes precedence. Um, Myself, I like to write one thing at a time and get it over with. But sometimes, as you know, that's not always possible. You can't always do that. So um, one thing that I usually do is whatever is the toughest, I'll do that first. If there's no competing deadlines, um, whatever is the hardest thing to do, I'll get that over with as soon as possible. Uh, that way, the main part of the main pressure of these competing projects, I'll get that over with, and I'll deal with it first, and then the rest of it will be easier going. I guess another question. How many times do you recommend that co-authors read the manuscript? 2 times. I would say at least 2 times. Possibly, I always err on the side of caution. So 3 might be might be a good recommendation, but at least twice. How many times do you suggest to review your own work? Every time I reread it, I change the title. You say stopping yourself and sending co-authors. Um, Review your own work. It's a tough thing to do. You can get so used to seeing what you wrote that you're kind of blinded yourself to certain things. That's why of course, hardly anybody reads paper newspapers anymore, but you used to see lots of um, typos, misspelled words, and headlines of newspaper articles, but not in the main article itself. And a lot of times that you see that it's so big, you're so used to it that you're numb to small things like that, and you kind of lose your perspective. So you can review your own work too much. I would One thing that you might want to do is review sections of a paper or a proposal. Don't wait and review the entire thing. I do that frequently whenever I'm writing. When I do writing now for scientific publications, I'll go through and I'll review parts of it at a time, not all at once. Um, if there's something, if there's a certain passage, you may want to copy it and send it to someone who's one of your co-authors and have them look at it, and not wait and send them the entire part. There are many different ways you can approach that. There's really not a hard and fast rule. It's whatever you think is best. It usually is. So I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would. You can overanalyze your own work. I've been guilty of it, and I know many other writers have been too. I will say that you all have the luxury of longer deadlines than I had in my writing. My deadlines in college were usually measured in hours, not in days or weeks. So you have an advantage over me in that regard. some questions. Really want to thank everyone for joining us today. It was a great turnout. I very much appreciate it, and I hope this was helpful to y'all. And like I said, we're going to put the recording on our website and also the PDFs of the slides. There's one more question. Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day and stay safe.